What's going on, Grasshoppers? Chun is back, and welcome to the continuation of the Smogon Tour XIII series. We're moving into week 5, which hosts the second set of 4th gen OU tournaments in what is now the previous season. Still using the same team, but I made a few changes to it for this go round. Anywho, this is Friday's tournament, and I get paired up against Maxou in the first round. A little bit of background: I was getting off of work on this particular Friday, and I was waiting for the bus. I had the PO app on my phone, so I decided to whip out my phone and jump on to get a quick battle while I was waiting. And sure enough, the first match I ended up playing is against Maxou. So I've got a little bit of an advantage since I have some previous knowledge of his team if he ends up using the same one. I did end up winning that previous match, so let's see if I can pull it off again. I lead with Raikou. He's going to lead with Heatran. I know his Heatran's got Stealth Rock and Aura Sphere doesn't win at KO, so I'm going to go directly to Gyarados before they go up, and he does set up the Stealth Rock. Going to decide to scout what he would do just by going for Waterfall. It's going to end up being a 2-hit KO, but the bigger surprise is that he has Hidden Power Electric, which I don't think he had the first time we played, but I could be wrong. Looks like this could be the Shuka-Tran set with HP investment that was pretty popular on the PO ladder around the time of Smogon Tour XII. Gyara's not going to be able to come back in since my changes didn't include adding a spinner, so I stay in to attempt to finish Tran off, thinking his job is done, but he goes to his own Gyarados. Guess he's trying to save Tran for Death Fodder later on, and I just decided to go for Taunt before going down to prevent any setup from this Gyarados. He ends up going for Roar, though, which was questionable. Maybe he thought it was an offensive set, which was pretty popular during this time. I try for Stone Edge to get some damage on Gyara before going down, but of course I miss, and he finishes my Gyarados off with Waterfall. I believe this is Rest Talk, if I recall correctly from playing him before, but I bring Raikou in on the free switch. At this point, it's looking like he's using the same team. Because of this, I know he's got a Mamoswine, so I predict him to switch into it, go for an Aura Sphere, and I nail it coming in. Extreme Speed's the obvious move for me, and he ends up staying in as I pick Mamo off. He's going to bring Breloom in on the free switch, and I start rubbing my hands together because I know it's coming. I guess he forgot what lead Raikou runs, so I show the extra sensory because it really doesn't matter what he does. He won't be able to make a sub, and if he spores, I have Lumberry, which he does end up going for. Now here I'm not quite sure if I remember him having Tyranitar or not. I'd like to think I did since I go for Aura Sphere again, and it's a solid 2-hit KO, so it's an offensive Tyranitar. Whether I predicted him to go into it or not, Aura Sphere was still the better move regardless, since I outspeed Breloom anyway. And I'm hoping this Tyranitar's Choice Scarf since I hadn't seen any Revenge Killers yet, so I decided to scout for it by going to Flygon. He does go for it. I'm gonna go for a U-turn, hoping he switches out so I can bluff the choice item. Flygon is in fact mixed with Expert Belt, so hopefully the bluff will come in handy later on. So he goes back to Gyarados, telling me that Tyranitar is Scarfed, and I just go to Raikou. And here I just decide to use Thunderbolt since Mamoswine is gone, and I doubt he has another electric immunity. He switches out and reveals a Zapdos. Unfortunate that I wasn't able to get up Stealth Rock at this point, since Zapdos takes a decent amount, but the damage does show that it's specially defensive. So I decided to keep up the pressure with another Thunderbolt. I believe I wanted to prevent him from making a sub if he had it, and I didn't want to risk bringing in anything else at the time, since either I knew the set or I forgot what he was running, so I wanted to scout it again. But he shows Roost. This turn I predicted him to predict me to go for Thunderbolt again by roosting again to get to full, so I show Tyranitar, but he has a nasty surprise for me and shows that he has Thunder Wave. That's going to cripple T-Tar for the rest of the match since I'm Dragon Dance. Figured he would stay in, so I just decided to make the most of it by showing Ice Punch to try and finish Zapdos off, but he ends up going back to Breloom, which I didn't expect, and I catch that instead. And either he was predicting Stone Edge, which is still a bad play, or he was predicting me to predict him to Roost by going for Earthquake, but he brings T-Tar back in. I decide to get Stealth Rock up now by going to Bronzong, expecting him to try Earthquake again, but he runs Super Power as well. So I'm not sure what he's missing at this point, but I proceed with the plan, and he goes back to Heatran as expected. And since I can't touch Heatran, I go back to Tyranitar predicting Fire Blast. I wanted to try to get more mileage out of Tyranitar as well, despite it being paralyzed, and I stay aggressive by predicting to switch to Zapdos or Gyarados by going for Ice Punch, but he exploded outright to try and finish me off. Barely managed to live it though. It's going to go back to Tyranitar on the free switch. At this point, there's no reason to keep T-Tar around, and I figured this is as good a time as any to fodder and take advantage of the move he's locked into. He chooses Superpower to finish it off, to make sure Flygon and Bronzong don't get a free switch in. But I go to Flygon anyway. I continue to enforce the bluff I made earlier by U-turning again. He goes back to Gyarados, and I take advantage by revealing Magneton. and Magneton Scarf. So I'm going to lock in the Thunderbolt to force Gyarados out again. And he's going to go back to Zapdos. With Stealth Rock up though, Thunderbolt's looking like it's going to be a solid 2-hit KO. And I'm going to stay in and go for the 2-hit KO with Thunderbolt. He's going to end up sacrificing Zapdos, and he's going to end up bringing Tyranitar back in again, since he can't afford to bring Gyarados in. So at this point, I'm going to decide to go back to Bronzong to fodder it, figuring Superpower was most likely coming, so I could take advantage of him being locked into it. And he does end up going for Superpower again, and I'm going to bring Flygon in on the free switch. And I'm just going to go for a U-turn again. And wait a minute, what? It's not Scarfed? Wow, that was a pretty nice bluff from my opponent, I gotta admit. It's unfortunate though, because he really didn't get any advantage out of doing it. Because U-turn's going to finish Tyranitar off, and with Gara being the last one, I go back to Raikou. I'm going to finish it with Thunderbolt. And yeah, that's going to be the game. But it was a pretty nice game. I had the advantage though, since I knew his team pretty well from playing him a few hours before the tour started. That, and I believe I was on a different alt on the PO ladder at the time, so it would have been pretty difficult for him to know that he played against my team earlier, at least within the first few turns. But regardless, I move on to round 2, and I'll be going up against Kuja. But until then, guys, Chun is out. Peace.